Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Let me make sure everything is good. And yes, probably should have checked this before I started. This sounds absolutely absurd, and this is way too much information. But after my showers are my zen moments, and I feel I need to take one after work each day and kind of just get into the zen state. And so it's like immediately rushing after. It's like, I need to do a video. My wife, my loving wife, had to go to the hospital or had to go to the doctor's office for just some medical issues, some female issues. And as I sat in the room, as the doctor emasculated me with the device that, while not necessarily putting me to shame, made me question myself. Let me put it that way. I read the news on Twitter. And The Hill is one of the magazines or one of the news articles that I like to read. Now, The Hill came out with a very long report talking about the Uranium 1 deal. That Uranium 1 deal report was long. It was long. The Hill was extraordinarily thorough in it. Now, the Democratic Party and the media has been complicit in this, but the Democratic Party has screamed to high heaven after the election that the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, they are above reproach. They can't be wrong. That ultimately the information that they present, even when it's just somebody looking at it and giving an opinion, is godly. It is like the word of God. Now, this same organization, let's talk about the FBI specifically, was investigating all of the dealings, or many of the dealings, dealing with this kind of acquisition of uranium, because, let's be honest, it's a big fucking deal. Now, some people may use uranium in the sense of just powering their reactors, but uranium can be mined and everything else and filtered to use weapons. Giving 20% of your stores to a country that you're trying to say is this kind of hostile, existential threat, it's a little dicey. Now, what I'm getting at here is the FBI was investigating the dealings associated with it because there were shady dealings in order to acquire that much uranium from the United States. And according to those businesses, hands were getting greased, people were being extorted, people were being threatened. All of these things were taking place. Many of these things were against the law, including Bill Clinton getting $500,000 and the Clinton Foundation getting over $2 million. After the deal was taking place, mind you, when she was in the State Department. Now, The Hill is not some random rag that you find online. The Hill is not this kind of, oddball magazine that nobody looks at, and every so often you find a story talking about lizard people. That's not The Hill. The Hill is establishment can get. And if The Hill is going to report a story in this way, being pretty explicit that it's a little strange that the fact that Hillary Clinton was in the State Department while Bill Clinton was getting money and this deal went through is a little strange. It's a little odd. Now you tell me. You're sitting across the dinner table. Your husband, your wife, your spouse, whatever, comes home and says, honey, by the way, I got $500,000 for a speech from this company. Oh, that's nice, honey. And they said they're going to give $2 million to the Clinton Foundation. Now, here's the thing. You can make the case that they got the money after the fact for the Clinton Foundation thing. But it looked, from a random person's view, from any person's view, honestly, if anybody was being honest and it looks at this, it looks like palms were being greased for a deal that should have never taken place. There is no right or no reason that you're going to give 20% of your nuclear stores to somebody you call an existential threat. Beyond not giving 20% of your nuclear stores to, this kind of existential uranium for this existential threat, there's something wrong if you're in the State Department and your husband is doing foreign dealings abroad. That's all I'm saying. And if it comes into a situation where your husband seems to be getting his palm greased and you seem to be doing things in benefit of the people who's greasing his palms, then yes, I'm going to question your behavior in that. It's going to look to me as if you were taking a bribe for favors. And it looks to me as if you were monetizing the State Department. Now, this isn't me talking. This is The Hill talking. Understand what I'm saying? This isn't me pulling this out of my ass. This is The Hill reporting on the story saying, it's a little strange that, they kind of slid this thing under the rug with the remuneration for the deal that went through. while at the exact same time, the venerable FBI that the Democrats have said are beyond reproach and everything else, are looking at this and investigating this thoroughly and saying this is a criminal enterprise. Part of this criminal enterprise was trying to get access to Hillary Clinton through Bill Clinton. Now, that's the Hill reporting. Hillary Clinton had a response to this. Yes, she had a response to this. Now, you can't find Hillary Clinton when Standing Rock is going on. You can't find Hillary Clinton when, you know, you need somebody for a labor strike, to talk about labor, to talk about unions. Can't find Hillary Clinton for any of this stuff. Can't find Hillary Clinton for ideas on peace and stopping war and to get money into the hands of actual people, not the bullshit policies that she's espousing. Can't find Hillary Clinton when you're talking about kind of eliminating trade deals. Yeah, she was for the TPP. She came out against it when she was running, but only because she was pushed because of Sanders and Trump. She was for it the entirety of the time, up to the point where she was running in the election. And even in the WikiLeaks document, she talks about this kind of open borders thing. Can't find her on any of the issues that pertain to what would be normally considered the left. But she has a lot to say about this uranium deal. The amazing part of this is she says this is baloney. This story has a first name. She says it's baloney. She says what the Hill reported had been debunked and that this was baloney, etc., etc., etc. Now, does Hillary Clinton have a vested interest in saying this story is baloney? Yes. Does the story look as if during the State Department she was being bribed? The answer is yes. And if that's true, if it looks like she was being bribed while she was in the State Department, does Hillary Clinton have a vested interest in saying I was not being bribed while I was in the State Department? The answer is yes. Is Hillary Clinton the paragon of virtue and a source for truth that you want to go to get the definitive word on what took place with in regards to this deal? That's the operative question. Meaning, when you read her response, the question becomes, do I believe what Hillary Clinton is saying, or do I believe Hillary Clinton is trying to obfuscate because there were shady dealings when she was in the State Department? Who do you believe? Hillary Clinton or your lying eyes? Who do you believe? Let's read the story. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said Monday that the renewed focus on Russian uranium deals approved during her tenure is nothing more than debunked baloney, and a sign that Republicans are nervous about the current intelligence probe into Moscow's efforts to meddle with the last year's election. Hey, the thing that you're saying, when you're trying to say when I was in the State Department and I was being immensely corrupt and my husband was taking a huge amount of money, that he was being bribed, yeah, that's baloney. Don't look at that. Pay no attention to that. Pay no attention to man behind the curtain. What you need to pay attention to is the Mueller probe. Pay attention to the Mueller probe. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. I'm not in office. Don't look at me. I'll tell you what happened, but beyond that, don't look at me. Here's, you know, the wild and shitty part about this from just the average person's standpoint. Hillary Clinton probably was being bribed, or at the very least the family was probably being bribed. And even if they didn't necessarily say overtly, I am being bribed, certainly on an emotional level, they fully understood what was taking place. You're getting money, you're going to do a favor for that money, you're going to get compensated for that thing. Let's be honest, be honest. I'm saying if you're going to start on any level of taking your government back, you start at a fundamental level of honesty. A fundamental level of honesty is this woman was being corrupted and she was being paid off for favors to give up 20% of the United States uranium stores. Now, as a human being, as a political human being, who's beyond this idea of shame, they've shed this thing of shame as just a cultural phenomenon. Who cares about shame? Who cares about shame? You would come out and say, that story is debunked. That story is baloney. Don't believe that story. Pay attention to Republicans. Don't pay attention to me. So, I'm not shocked by it. The thing is, Republicans may be nervous about the probe. Or at the very least, Donald Trump may be, particularly if he's looking into Trump's business dealings with Russia in that sense. Like going beyond the typical scope of the probe and going into business dealings. But that has nothing to do with Republicans. That has everything to do with Donald Trump. We're talking about you. We're talking about you. We're talking about whether or not the United States is okay with the State Department being monetized. That's what we're talking about. We are talking about corruption at its finest. Now, here's the catch. This should not begin and end with Hillary Clinton. This should be consistent. This should be going from one person to the next and making this point that this guy is being bribed, this guy is taking money, and this is not isolated to Republicans. I mean, to Democrats. This runs the gambit. This is politics in the United States. That needs to change. If you're going to go after fun, go after the rest also. Understand that the current model of politics in our country is this person is taking a huge amount of money and this person is doing the bidding of the person who's giving them the huge amounts of money, while at the same time saying, I am working in the interests of the working man and I'm trying to get jobs. Both sides do the exact same thing. Some may be better at corruption, some may be more high profile with the corruption, but both sides ultimately do the same thing. Thank you for the cash. What do you need? Nobody in their right mind is going to go out and tell the public, I've taken huge amounts of cash, so I've got to do the bidding of the person who gave me the cash. They're going to say, I am working in your benefit. I'm trying to create jobs. I'm trying to help the middle class. I'm trying to blah, 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 blah. Hillary Clinton may be more high profile, but this is not isolated to Hillary Clinton. Understand, your issue is systemic. The corruption is systemic. If you're going to go after one, you should go after all. It's just so happens she got her hand caught in the cookie jar, and she's trying to point at every Republican or point at Donald Trump, say, hey, pay no attention to me. Pay no attention to me. Look at Donald Trump. He's gobbling. He's horrible. He's horrible. I think the real story is how nervous they are about these continuing investigations. By the way, I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Republican. So this idea that this is only just Republicans is bogus. They try to use this thing, oh, it's only Republicans. It's only the right wing. It's not just the right wing, dude. It's not just the right wing. You have the left wing, you have the right wing, you have independents, and all of them are looking at this and thinking the same thing. This woman was bribed. They're thinking the same thing. I think the real story is how nervous they are about seeing these continuing investigations, the former Democratic presidential nominee said during an interview broadcast on C-SPAN. Oh, did she now? The renewed interest in the so-called quote-unquote Uranium One deal came after The Hill reported last week that the FBI had gathered solid evidence that Russian nuclear industry officials were engaged in bribery and extortion before the Obama administration approved the sale to Russia of a company that controls 20% of America's uranium supply. The Hill further reported Sunday that the FBI had identified a Russian spy ring's attempts in 2009 and 2010 to infiltrate Hillary Clinton's inner circle through a donor friend in order to spy on State Department. This is the Hill. This is not me saying it. This is the Hill. They're recounting the fact that they were trying to bribe her. Flat fact. They were trying to bribe her. The FBI had a mole. They were trying to bribe her. The venerable FBI that they say, hey, the FBI, the NSA, all these guys say it was Russia hacking. These same guys that you say are venerable and untouchable and, you know, the word of God is now saying that there were people trying to infiltrate your network to pay you off for favors. But in this case, they're not venerable. They're not the word of God. They're just the FBI. And Hillary Clinton wants to say that story is baloney. That story is baloney. Some baloney, all right. The Hill further reported Sunday that the FBI had identified a Russian spy ring's attempt in 2009 and 2010 to infiltrate Clinton's inner circle through a donor friend in order to spy on the State Department. Agents arrested and deported the female spy before anything could happen. Those stories in the Hill were based on court documents, declassified law enforcement memos, and interviews with career officials. Clinton said any accusation of wrongdoing were partisan in nature. I would say it's the same baloney they've been peddling for years, and there's no credible evidence by anyone. In fact, it's been debunked repeatedly, and I will continue to be debunked, she said. Now here's the catch. It is a flat fact that Bill Clinton got $500,000 for that speech. It is a flat fact that the Clinton Foundation got over $2 million after the deal went through. If you want to say that agents arrested and deported the female spy before anything had happened, okay. If you want to say that, well, hey, look, they got that spy. They deported him. Did they deport Bill Clinton? I mean, you're talking about paying the prior president off. You're talking about the prior president going from one country to the next, doing one deal after the next while his wife was in the State Department. Is any interaction in any way with Bill Clinton completely separate and distinct from his wife that's in the State Department. Meaning, if Bill Clinton is taking a bunch of money to do a speech, does it make it more amiable for Hillary Clinton to do something in response to the fact that he got all that money to do a speech? I'm asking, are these people too separate and distinct, and so separate and distinct that something that takes place with one doesn't in any way impact the other? So if Bill Clinton is getting a bunch of money for a speech, is Hillary Clinton in a locked box somewhere? It's the Clinton Foundation. It's getting $2 million. Is Hillary Clinton in a locked box? Now, we know this is not true. We know in WikiLeaks there was information, this idea of where the State Department ends or where the Clinton Foundation began and the State Department ends was a sketchy prospect in the lease. Money would come into one, a favor would come out the other. It'd be pretty magical the way it happens. One of those things is here. Now, The Hill, and then other reporting kind of made this point. It's a little strange. Or maybe not strange. Strange is the wrong word. They didn't use the term. But ultimately, I'm paraphrasing. How does a prior president who's jumping around the globe doing deals while his wife is in the State Department, and just so happened with all the corruption and everything else that the FBI had associated with this particular deal, they had spies and moles in some of these cases, that the part with these guys, Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, be either Bill Clinton in the speech or the Clinton Foundation, getting all the money during the course of this deal, how does that slip under the rug? How does that not get raised up? It's one thing for Hillary Clinton to just say, look, there was no wrongdoing here. Yes, we made the deal. There was no wrongdoing. Calling it baloney when all of the FBI and court documents and everything else is saying this is true. And look, this is The Hill. Those stories in The Hill were based on court documents, declassified law enforcement memos, and interviews with career officials. Clinton said any accusation of wrongdoing were partisan in nature. The Hill is making this point that, look, Hillary Clinton is saying none of this is true. But these court documents, the flat fact of a court document, the flat fact of law enforcement or declassified law enforcement memos, meaning they're looking at these things, information that took place during the time the FBI was investigating all of this, versus Hillary Clinton's integrity. Which one do you want? Which one do you want? Which one do you believe? There are times when I am antagonistic towards law enforcement. This is not one of them. Ultimately, they did an investigation, and this woman has got her hand caught in the cookie jar. And it looks bad. And the last thing she wants is this to be floating out there. She comes out and says, hey, stop looking at me. Look at Donald Trump. There may be corruption in the Trump White House, don't get me wrong. If you're talking about Trump's business dealings with Russia, maybe, I can believe that. What that got to do with you? What does that have to do with you? Meaning, does investigations, do investigations end up in a queue? Is it one investigation at a time? Are you telling me that you can't investigate Hillary Clinton for wrongdoing in this particular case and Donald Trump at the same time? I didn't realize these things lined up in a queue. The public can do two things at once. They can look at the problems associated with the way you monetize the State Department, and they can look at the case with Donald Trump. It's not one or the other. It's not one or the other. Yeah, let's see. Let's take some comments. Mika Matina. Engaged in protecting pedophiles and human organ trafficking is far more serious than any of the Clintons have done. Wow, that's intense. Pet hacker. The deal meant a lot to Russia at a time when they were cash short because of the stock shock doctrine. Fair enough. J. Scott. InfoWars. Let's see. Kathleen Cohn. It's about bribes and money laundering, not simply sale of the Uranium One mining company. No, I agree. When the FBI was doing an investigation, the FBI was talking about extortion, bribes, etc., etc. That's kind of what brought it up. The issue was that the Obama administration and Clinton came out saying there is no reason why the sale shouldn't take place. And the FBI, you would imagine, was like, wait a minute. Did they not have access to what the FBI was doing? I mean, the FBI is making this point that these guys were criminals. Which is it? Which is it? Is it complete incompetence? Is it corruption? Is it some combination of both? Pick your pony. Pick your pony. It could be all three. Oh, Kathleen, thank you, Super Cash. Uranium processing for our plants is a very good business to be in. I would imagine so. I would imagine so. Let's see. Am I back up? Am I back up? Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. This says I am back up, even though I don't necessarily see it on YouTube, so I'm going to assume I am back up. How is lobbying different from bribing? It is not. At least I don't think it is. That's my personal opinion, but I don't think it is. I mean, if you're talking about just a pure sense of the difference, but... Alright, so this is... I'm seeing green in here, but I'm not seeing green on YouTube, so that's kind of making me think that I am not up, and I'm not certain. So, I am going to end this, because I have one right after this that I also want to do. Yeah, I have one that I want to do after this one. Alright guys, if you enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support through Patreon. Thanks guys.